Steve, this is Rick. So, I got Jim with me down at the fire station.
Okay, thanks. All right, I have everything live. Mr. Watkins, I have Public Works up first, if you're okay with that.
Okay with that.
And I have Ms. Meyer and Julie, I'm sorry, I forget your last name, here from Alcoasand. You had asked for some information from our engineer on the regionalization transfer agreement. And the engineer had suggested that it might be good to have those two here as part of the Public Works Committee report. So Julia or Ms. Meyer, again, I apologize, I don't remember your last name, Julia. Anyway, if one of you want to start, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So my last name is Spiker, Julia
Oh,
Spiker. I'm with Alcoasand, and we have Janae Smith Williams, who has been leading the regionalization team since it began in about 2015. So we wanted to take the opportunity and thank you for the time to talk to you about the program, give you a little bit of update on where the region is moving as far as transfer of those sewer lines go, and then just be here to answer any of the questions that the council may have. So we have been working with your engineering firm, as well as Three Rivers Wet Weather. They've been a great partner in engaging the municipalities and moving forward from the transfer defect repairs then through the administration of the permitting process. So we're very excited to say the region as a whole has made tremendous strides in addressing those sewer repairs that are needed prior to transfer and are now in kind of the final stages of the program, and where we're actually seeing those assets transferred from your responsibility for ownership, maintenance, and future improvements to Alcoasand's.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it for the Alcoasand Sewer Revitalization Program? Or any other comments?
I have a question.
All right, questions.
Yeah. How are we doing compared to the other people in our area on our system? In other words,
Sure.
our group, how far along are we in getting achieved?
We're waiting for documentation of some of those sewer defect repairs to be submitted to Alcoasand. If the council has passed the resolution to participate in the transfer of sewers to Alcoasand, we can go ahead and begin your permitting process. We would just need a record of that executed resolution. At that time, we would be able to go to DEP, make the request for all of the permits, and then begin the evaluation to determine if additional permits are needed prior to transfer, or if we can transfer existing ones. In either event, Alcoasand is leading that effort. We have agreed with all of our municipalities to pay those permitting fees to complete those applications and kind of work with you hand in hand, because it can be a bit of an overwhelming process if you're not used to it.
Council hasn't passed any resolution yet, just so you know. They were waiting for our engineer to advise us as to when specifically to do it. So nothing's been approved yet.
Sure, that would be the next step that we would be looking for to kind of help you through the final stages of transfer, if that is indeed something you want to do.
Is there a deadline?
No, there's no deadline. The only caution I give is I believe you have executed your consent order and agreement, which is not with Alcoasand, it's with the regulatory agencies. There is some reference to participating in regionalization. It is certainly not mandatory, but it is mentioned in that consent order and agreement. If you want to complete the transfer process within the time frame of the COA, it would be important for us to go ahead and start working on that permitting process, because it can be quite long.
Let me ask Dave Gilland a question, if you don't mind, Mr. Watkins.
Go ahead, please.
Is there any reason to delay because of what's going on in Ardmore with PennDOT, or is that going to be completely separate?
No, that's totally separate. I will check with Bob. Bob Ziska wasn't available tonight. I will check with him tomorrow and see exactly what, if anything, is holding up council passing the resolution. And if there isn't anything holding it up, and I'll certainly get it before council, the committee and council for their consideration. I know it's been reviewed by your solicitor and the committee of solicitors and engineers that put the thing together. So I don't know that there's any particular problems associated with it. I think everything's been worked out. And as far as the repairs to the line that's going to be taken over, those are in progress. I think they're about 30% complete at this time.
Mhm.
So they are in progress. It was a complex agreement that we had to get between 7 communities. And that was all worked out last year. It was bid, Forest Hills is taking the lead because most of the flow is Forest Hills. But it is in progress and under construction at this time.
That's wonderful. Wonderful to hear. If you need a copy of the resolution, it is in that transfer agreement binder, but we'd also be happy to just email that to you directly.
I'm sure we have it.
Corbel has it, yeah.
Yeah, I believe we have it. I think I've already sent it out for people to look at, but I can send it again if anybody needs to. Once we get ready to do it, shouldn't be a problem.
Just one other question, unless someone else has some. But in terms of emergency management, this is a major project on our boulevard. Can you share with us some of the emergency management procedures that might be in place? Should we have something like that?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. A great question. So one of the ways I like to start is, the lights are always on at Alcosan. We operate 365, 24 hours a day. So we do have O&M crews on hand for emergency responses. All we do is work on sewers. So we have equipment, we have back trucks. We're able to go out and inspect, to do some observations about determining the nature of the repair. And then we would have, and we do have on hand right now, on-call emergency contractors. So they're already ready to be mobilized and respond to repairs as they're needed immediately.
Thank you. Thank you
Sure,
very much.
thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Alcosan? I guess.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Sure.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julian.
Ms. Watkins, I have nothing else since Three Rivers Wet Weather didn't send me a report yet, so I'm finished with my report then.
Okay. We move on to the foreman report.
Engineer?
Engineer, please.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. The construction contract for the MS4 detention pond project behind the park and ride lot on Avenue B was awarded by council April 27th. The DE permit has been received and work should begin within 1 month on that. I did speak to the contractor today and he's ready to start. As soon as he gets his contract signed, his bonds and insurance papers filed. The Fall Run Interceptor project, as I just mentioned, Alcosan is in progress. The Ashley Court to Ardmore sanitary sewer, the contract to remove the roots in this sanitary sewer was also awarded April 27th. Work will begin within 1 month. They are trying to coordinate that work with the work going on Ardmore with PennDOT because that is in the general vicinity of the end of this job. So we're trying to make sure that we don't interfere with their work and they don't interfere with ours.
Great.
The 2022 paving contract was awarded April 27th. Work on that should begin within 1 month. I would mention at this time that Jim Thielek called me today and said that the gas company is going to be doing some work in the area. Jim, are you on here? I guess he's not on here. He did mention that the gas company was going to be doing some work.
I'm here.
On what street was that? Wood?
I think, well, I'm going to a meeting on Thursday, but it's supposedly, it could be, I'm going by what the gas company guy said. He didn't have the list in front of him, but I think it's part of Woodside, Greenwood, Sylvan, Hillcrest. They're gonna, that whole top section, they're gonna run new gas lines and then send a new line, I think, to each house. But don't quote me on every street. I'll find out for sure at the meeting on Thursday at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, so we'll find, Jim will find out on Thursday what's going on with that. Excuse me, and then we'll inform council and the committee from there. If it looks like the gas company is going to be working in a street that we had planned to pave, then we will just put that street on hold for now. And we'll have to see what their schedule is and what's what with that.
Now, did you say they're working on Sylvan?
No, they're not doing any work right now.
No, but they will, because I often smell
No.
gas when I walk on Sylvan, when I walk around there, because that's right around the corner from me. So I'm glad if they're working on that, because I've been concerned about gas smell in that area. I've
Jim, did
called-
they mention Sylvan?
It could be, Dave. You know, they were talking about that whole loop up there. Like I said, I'll find out for sure Thursday,
Okay.
and I can let everybody know.
Marcus, you have a question?
Yes. I heard you just said that they replace the gas line to the houses. Do our residents have to pay anything for that? Or is it all like the gas company?
No, normally they don't have to pay. The only time they do, you can get caught up in a little catch there. They replace the gas main and they replace the gas service to the curb box. But while they're doing it at the same time, they often will test your service line from the curb box into the house. And if they find any leaks, then a property owner would be forced to fix that leak or repair that line before they could be reconnected. But that's the only case where they would have to, the homeowner would have to have any cash outlay in this. And again, if they have the insurance on their gas line, they wouldn't have to either. But that's the only case where they would have to do anything, as if there was a leak found on their side of the curb box.
Okay. So, yeah. But if you have a leak, you probably want to get it fixed anyway. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Right, yeah, you would want to get it fixed anyway if you had that leak. And oftentimes that does happen. And that happened to me where I used to live. And they, put a new line in the street. They found that my service line needed replaced. So I had a big surprise. So that was
Hey,
35 years
Chances
ago.
are, if they replace the main lines, the service lines are probably the same age or similar age. So it's probably
That's pretty common, yes.
okay. Thank you.
That's all I have to report.
Okay. Now it's time for the foreman's report.
I just
Jimmy?
have my, yep, I'm here. I just have my
Okay.
list of projects for May. And if anybody has any questions on that? If not, then the only other thing is the Washington Road. We developed a sinkhole up there on the end down near sort of towards the bend. And here we've got a broken pipe and the road was caving in. The engineer's office has already started to get estimates. We're going to get 3 estimates, but we'd like authorization for whoever's the low bidder for this repair, that we can tell them to move, go ahead and fix it. And then you guys could ratify this at your regular meeting, because we're worried about the backyards are above the houses on Cascade there. And the storm line is totally plugged with stone and stuff. And we don't want to cause a landslide or anything up there. So if everybody's all right with that, we'd like to proceed with that.
I have the letter ready to go out tomorrow pending the committee's approval to do so, to get 4 quotes actually on the replacement of 10 feet, excuse me, 10 feet of that 15-inch pipe on Washington that Jim's referring to. The proposals would be due 1 week from tomorrow on Wednesday by 11 o'clock. So at that time, we would know who was the low bidder. And like Jim said, if it's okay with the committee, maybe they could give Steve the authority to authorize us to proceed with the award of that pending, and it can be ratified at the next council meeting.
Steve, what would we need to proceed with that?
If the committee is okay and nobody else has any objection, you could say go ahead, and then we'll just put a vote for ratification on the 18th. That'd be simple as that.
Okay, do we need a voice vote now, or we just proceed?
I would-
Are there any objections?
Yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah.
Are there any objections?
No,
I don't hear any, so let's proceed.
Okay, we'll get the, Steve, the proposals will be due by, at your office by 11 o'clock next Wednesday. I will be there at that time to see what we got. They could come by email also. And we will take it from there at that point.
Okay.
I have a question for Jimmy, if you're still there.
Yeah, I'm here.
Jimmy, I see that one of the things we have is to rebuild the catch basins for the paving program.
Yes.
Are those just the streets that are supposed to be paved, or are they including other catch basins?
Well, we're gonna do the priority of the list is gonna be the ones for the paving first, and then we're gonna proceed and do some other ones too. Yes.
Any idea how many other catch basins need work?
No, I mean, we during the winter time when it's not snowing, we go around and sort of take a survey of them. I think right now we've got about another 6 we have to rebuild, other than I think we have like 15 on the list for the paving. So we've got over 20 to rebuild here.
Okay. I'll try to get in touch with you sometime to see that list. I'd like to know if we've got all of them. I know somebody stopped me and they said that there's one at 300 Ridge Avenue. I don't know if that's on the list. And also there's one near on Greensburg Pike. It's got a cone, construction cone.
Greensburg Pike is Allegheny County, Cecil.
So the county has responsibility for that?
Yes, they do.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. In fact, I think I notified them on that, and I think that's why they came out and put a cone on it. But I can double check with them to make sure. it's
Okay.
on the list.
Would you also be able to let me know if the one on Ridge, it's near the home on 300 Ridge Avenue?
Yes.
Okay, I'll wait for your call.
Okay.
Cecil, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Jimmy, don't we usually have a maid to paint the pool and all that kind of stuff? Is it all done or?
We're not going to have to paint this year, Marcus. We looked at it. The paint's in pretty good shape up there. We do have to we're going to turbo blast the spray park area and repaint that. But that's a small area, and we just got to really get the leaves out of the bottom of the pool and clean it. And so it's not a real big job this year up there.
All right, good to know. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for our foreman? Nope. So I guess we're done. We move on to section 3, and there is no committee business to report. So that's it for Public Works,
Okay, thanks.
unless someone has questions. Nope. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, thanks. Give me a few seconds and we'll move to borough property. Okay, Ms. Martin, I'm okay to start borough property if you are.
Yes, thank you, please.
Okay, I just have two updates. Item C is just a reminder. Item A, we were granted the extension on the grant that would cover at least part of the purchase of a clock for the Centennial. If you recall, this was delayed because of the pandemic and other issues. But the grant was supposed to expire at the end of June. They granted an extension till next June 2023. So I'm working on specs for a clock based on what everyone has told me. And hopefully I will get that out by midsummer and we'll get bids in. The second thing is I'm working with Iron Mountain on the storage stuff. We have to get the agreements put together. They've already been approved by council and the solicitors already reviewed them. So I just got to get the process started and in motion with them. And I should be talking to them tomorrow, just so you know, but I don't have any further update yet right now. So that's all I have to report unless anybody has a question for me.
Any questions? Okay, then, let's move forward. Do we have anything from the engineer foreman?
Thank you. Just a few informational items. The line painting on the pickleball court has been awarded as part of the paving project and will be done when the weather is consistently warmer and drier. The next item is the Pennsylvania DCED blight remediation grant. About a year ago, we got a grant of $19,800 to demolish 21 Marion Avenue. And that site was then put up for sale, and then the owner was possibly going to fix it up or not. I think it was sheriff's sale, and the new owner was possibly going to fix it up, but now they've put it up for sale. And there were some alternative sites that I had looked at with Mr. Branzel, but none of those fit the description of what was needed for demolition. They weren't in bad enough shape. So I guess at this point, we'll just wait and see if anything comes up. I mean, the grant expires in June if we don't use it. So I don't know if anyone has gotten any complaints about any houses. There was another talk about another house, I believe on Woodside, that's also up for sale. But from what I understand from talking to Mr. Branzel, the realtor has indicated that they are selling that with the intent that they're going to probably tear down the house when it's bought because the house is in pretty bad shape. So they're mainly marketing it as buy this lot that has a house on it you need to tear down, and then you'd have a nice lot to build on. So I guess at this point, we'll just hold off on that. And if nothing happens, then we'll just let the grant expire.
Dave, can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
With regard to the 21 Marion Avenue?
Yes,
Oh, okay, so if the grant expires next month, is that right?
I believe so.
And then if the property owner now has it up for sale,
Yes.
so, I mean, I'm sure we don't know how long that contract is with the realtor, but then,
Usually they're 6 months.
okay, do we know when this was put up for sale?
I noticed the sign about at least 2 months ago. I think it was winter when the sign went up. Might have even been longer than that. I believe Mr. Corbin was supposed to be trying to contact the current owner to see if he had any insight on what the status of the property was, but I never heard back if he was able to contact the owner or not. Perhaps someone, or I could, if no one else does, contact the realtor. I don't know what they'll tell me, but being that I'm not an interested party, but I can see, or I can even pretend to be interested, I guess, and see what if there's any movement on that. If a lot of people have looked at it, if you want me to do that, I can do that. If you want Mr. Branzel to do it as code officer, it might be more appropriate for him to do it.
Yeah, perhaps we'll ask Dawn Branzel to do that. I appreciate your offer, but we'll let Dawn handle it. Yes.
I think that'd be more appropriate. Yeah.
Dave, do you know if that grant can be transferred to a different property? Have we identified any other properties? I know the land bank is up for another round of properties to put in the land bank. And I don't know if this grant can be moved to a different property that we identified, or do we lose it?
No, it can be moved. It
Okay.
can be moved. But
Is
we
it
have
another property under consideration that we have to think about?
there were two within the last year that were brought up. There was one on I don't remember the name of the address. It was behind the Domino's Pizza up on that hill. And I went out and looked at it with Dawn, and the house is not really in bad enough shape to be demolished. I believe you'd be better off with a land bank or another alternative with that property, because I think it is salvageable. The bad thing is if you tear it down, then it's probably never going to be built on again, and you lose tax base. So I'd rather see houses fixed up if they can be, or repurposed. The other one, like I said, was on Woodside, and it sits up on a hill, and it is in very bad shape.
So what address is that on Woodside? Which one is that?
It's like behind Steve It's behind Steve's, I can't remember his last name now, that used to be on council.
Steve Karras.
Steve, it's behind Steve Karras's house up on that
On
hillside,
Woodside.
across.
That's not
Woodside.
Woodside, that's Sherwood.
That's Sherwood.
That's the
yeah.
I'm
house you're
sorry,
thinking of.
Sherwood. Sure.
It
I'm
sits
sorry,
up on a,
Sherwood. I got
it
the
sits
wrong
up on a
street.
hillside and it's in
All
pretty
right.
rough shape.
So
Yeah,
you're
I'm
talking
sorry.
about a Sherwood
Right.
Avenue building.
Yeah, thank you,
I
Mayor.
know which
That
one.
is Sherwood. Yeah. Yeah, it is in bad shape and it would normally be torn down, but the way real estate is selling these days, like I said, the realtor had indicated to Mr. Branzel that the property is being marketed as, here's a lot that's a nice building lot, but it has a house on it that needs torn down. So,
Just an FYI, Sherwood was sold, I believe, and someone is actually fixing that house up.
oh,
Amazingly
I
enough.
drive,
Yeah.
I drive
Oh.
past that house every day and they've done a lot. They're actually gutting
oh,
it,
good.
taking the front, all the exterior off. They're gonna put a new exterior finish on. So looks like it's in progress.
Good. I wasn't aware of that. I'm glad that something's being done there.
Yeah,
So-
so we should look and see if there are other properties that we might need to be able to allocate that money to before the end of the grant in June. I don't know if we have any that are vacant and in condition to be demolished. I mean, we're fortunate that we don't have a lot of, demolition worthy blighted houses in our town. But if
Right.
there is one, we might want to take advantage of that money while we have it.
I can ask Dawn again if he's aware of any, because he would be the one that would get the complaints.
Okay.
Any
And
other?
I'll also check on the expiration date of that grant. I believe it's this June. Sometimes those grants are 2-year grants. Steve, I don't know if you have the grant agreement. It would say in that, if you're able to pull it out at some point.
There's no way I can do it tonight, so just
I mean,
talk
not
to me
tonight,
tomorrow.
not tonight,
Okay.
not tonight. I wasn't
Okay,
meaning.
I mean, we've been talking
point-
about this for months, so,
Yeah, at some point in the future, I can get you the name. I could even probably try to contact the person in Harrisburg that would have sent out the grant agreements if I have copies, if I have emails on that, and contact them if they could tell me, but it would be in the grant agreement.
While we're on this subject, there's a house at, it's 815 Fairview. This was somebody who bought the house and they renovated it, but it was a single family and they turned it into a duplex. So should I check with Mr. Branzel to see if they went through code enforcement before doing that?
Yes.
Or,
Yep.
all right, I'll get in touch with them on that.
Any other questions on that item? Okay, we'll move on. The next item is the bird sanctuary observation deck. The project was awarded April 7th and contracts were sent out to the contractor. Assuming there are no delays in obtaining materials, which is common these days, I would expect the project to be underway within 6 to 8 weeks. But again, that's going to depend on the availability of raw materials. The Westinghouse Lodge evaluation by Amerispec Inspection Services was completed on April 29th, last Friday. The report will follow. I know that they did try to contact Cindy today to remove the radon detectors from the basement. So they are wrapping up the evaluation of that building. And we will hopefully have a report by this time next month on what they found. Hey. My dogs never want to make noise until I'm doing my report. Get your bone. Get it. Sorry about that. And the final item is that I have prepared specifications for the Westinghouse Lodge HVAC system with conventional system, but we were waiting for information from Siemens before bidding, so we can bid both the conventional and the green options. And I know that Siemens is collecting information on all our buildings for that project.
Yeah, I did dig out the utility data that they requested. I spent most of Monday doing that, so they should have it by the end of the week.
Patty, I never got a response. I did speak with that, I think his name is Imes.
Jonathan,
Yes, I
Jonathan,
did speak
yeah?
with him, but he was supposed to be sending me some kind of information for a different type of green system, but I never received that.
High efficiency heat pump. I'll call him again because I spoke to him just a week ago. They're really slammed busy, but I will call him and make sure he calls you again.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have unless there's any questions.
Dave, I have a comment. I did go over to the lodge this morning because part of the agenda items for things needed were those reports. I went into the basement and I think I may have even found some. They were on blueprints, but you're the expert. I dropped them off by Steve's office. If you ever get a chance, they're in a box waiting for you. Just let me know if these were correct or not.
Yeah, I can stop by the building probably tomorrow and take a look at what you found and see if that's what they're looking for.
I mean, anything that had a word like pool on it, I selected. It may not be right, but just let me know, please, okay?
Yes, will do.
Thank you. Any other questions then? Moving on to the foreman report then?
Okay, I just have two things. The first one is a sale of a surplus item for disposal. It's a Toro Groundsmaster 220D riding tractor, which is 1991. So Steve Steve knows the procedure of what we have to do with that. And then the second thing is we'd like to advertise again on Municipal Bid, if it's okay, the stove at the senior center.
Is that because the original bidder decided not to take it?
Yes, he showed up to take it, and we were going to help him get it on the trailer. And he says, I'm not going to have any way to get this thing off the trailer. He says, I'm just going to leave it with you.
Well, one concern I would have is, while that sounds like a good idea, hopefully there will be people coming in to tour the building. Will they think the stove is part of it?
Well, it's up to you. If you want us, we don't have to advertise it again. We put it back against the wall like where it was. Now, there's no electricity in there to feed that right now. That was, I think, 200, it's 3-phase, 240 volt or 230 volt, whatever it is. So, but you know, it's there. We slid it against the wall. That's fine, whatever you folks decide.
Anybody on my committee have a thought on that?
If it's there and people look at it and want it, I mean, they're welcome to keep it if they buy the building. I don't see any problem with that. If we can clear it out of there, then it's an empty room with multiple purposes.
Yeah, that sounds good to me as well.
Or you can just tell them when they come that the stove is not part of it. I mean, you know.
Well, if they want it, you know, they might want it. I don't know what condition it's in, but
See, we can't, there's no way to test it because there's no electricity of that to power that up over there.
Okay.
Jim, how much is it worth if we scrap it?
Scrap it, maybe $50.
Oh, geez. Okay.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm guessing.
It's heavy as all get up. That's why I was asking.
Pardon me?
It's heavy as all heck. So that's why I was asking.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm guessing, but
I think we're better off to try and sell it.
Well, the thing is with selling it, then that's going to be another month at least. And then there's buyers coming in.
Who cares? I think that you just let them know, like, hey, this is in the process of being sold.
Yeah.
And it's just not even to be considered as just, they're looking at the building, right? I don't think it's a big deal.
Well, what if somebody says, I want that to be with the building because it's in here?
Then
I'm
you say,
looking at
"Fine."
this for sale. So
leave it there and they can buy it as part of the
Then we'll
building.
take it off municipal bid and that's theirs. It's not
Yeah.
that, yeah,
It's not like it's going to make $1,000 or more difference in the
Right.
sale of the
it's not going to
building
make a significant impact to the thing.
and the price.
Then we'll tell them, if you can close the deal in the next 10 days, it's yours.
You can have it for free, right?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I told Jim to put this on here. This is way too much of a problem. It's not really any
It
problem
isn't.
either way.
It isn't
It's,
really.
you know,
Well, then let's just do this one last time, Steve. Have this on municipal, and then after that, we won't do this anymore.
I mean, it's already been approved by council via municipal, so we can do it right away and get it. And if somebody comes and wants it, you know, I mean, it's just, we should just not worry about it. It's fine. It'll work.
Okay, is everybody all right with that on committee?
Yes, I am. Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions then? Did you have anything else, Jim?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the Environmental Advisory Council. I just wanted to report the fine Earth Day cleanup that they held. There were about 30 people in attendance. They had a very nice program. Everyone went to different areas and cleaned up trash. There were some nice snacks and treats and gifts for anyone, such as seeds and blueberry bushes. And so it was a very beautiful day as well. And thanks to everyone that came out for it. Moving on then to
Wait,
the,
Barb, I have one more under Environment Advisory Council. We had a group of master's degree students from CMU who developed a brochure that we distributed at our Earth Day event. We will be getting their report on Friday. And they did a model for us of our climate action plan efficiency measures for residential that give people not just the energy savings, but the cost savings for the different measures that we've recommended in our low cost, no cost 2020 to 2030 period. So we'll be getting that on Friday. And I will distribute it to all of you when I give it to the council.
thank you for reminding me about that. That had slipped my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments? Questions? Moving on to the Tree and Shrub Committee. Again, we had a beautiful day for Arbor Day. What a fun time it was for the children from Trinity School. Carl's Tree Service put on quite a show. And thank you, Dave, for setting up that presentation from Glenn Engineering. That was really very nice and helpful.
You're welcome.
And thanks again to the Tree and Shrub Committee and anybody from the borough that participated. It was really a fine event. Any comments?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I attended the planning department's committee meeting this past Thursday. And a lot of conversation was said about our trees. This one gentleman was really irate, as though he did not know our procedures for cutting down our trees. Has anyone interacted with the planning department to let them know what our procedures are for cutting our trees down?
When you say our trees, do you mean borough trees? Bill?
Barrow trees, yes, barrow trees, yes. It was something that I felt very emotional about because they were really concerned that some of the trees are being cut down without some type of procedure being looked at before it's done. So I don't know if they've received a presentation on our procedures as a council on how we look at our trees, or maybe they're just confused, but they want to know what are our procedures for cutting your trees down.
I'm not aware of that. Mr. Morris, did you have a comment?
I mean, we have an ordinance that has all the information in it. They should be aware if they're on planning commission. If they're talking, and if they're not, it can easily be found on the website. If they're talking about all the issues with PennDOT and Duquesne Light, that's not in our control. People, no one's happy about it, but again, none of us can do anything to stop it. And if that's what the complaint is, which I think it was from some people on planning commission, they also should have addressed that, by now. I mean, we're here all the time. All they gotta do is call me, email me.
Mhm.
I mean, or look on the website. It's not hard. But some people make it harder than it.
I
Has
did
to
an
be.
article that I did an article for the Tree City Times for the next issue that comes out about that whole Duquesne Light and Ardmore Boulevard tree cutting situation. I interviewed all of the planning managers for the DOT and the Duquesne Light and wrote an explanation for people. But I can send it to the Planning Commission.
Oh, that'd be really great, Patty. Yeah. Yeah. It sounded like they were a little confused, but I didn't understand why, because that concept's been around for a while. So that'd be really good for them to be updated.
Any other comments? Okay, then we're going to move on to the committee business report. If you'll see on the agenda, there is an inventory assessment, the asset management system recommendation that Angelo and I wrote up. If you recall, this was mentioned a few months earlier as a way to track our inventory, because currently we have a lot of assets that aren't being tracked. Looking for things becomes hard. A lot of time is wasted when, if we had an inventory system, it would be a lot easier to locate items that could also be done mobily. Yes, sir.
Are we looking at equipment, tools,
The software.
things like that?
Well, when you look at the one that we recommended was Asset Panda. There is a fee and a cost at the estimate at the bottom, and that the fee is based on the number of assets that we would code. So of course, I could imagine our buildings would be an asset, vehicles, computers. We could certainly set a dollar value on items. For instance, we wouldn't want to count pens, paper clips, since there is a fee, but we could decide what we'd want to track, desks,
Right.
and so forth.
Yeah, it's very valuable.
There's probably a list of depreciable property. Do we keep a list of depreciation items, Steve?
The auditor would have
That,
some of that, in the audit report. And there was a company, Industrial Appraisal, that we were using for a long time that had been going through all of our stuff. And I'm not sure that they've done it in a couple of years because they don't have to do it every year for the audit reports, but there was somebody we were using.
but the audit report would give us at least a rough number, right? About how many, if it's like difference between 3,000 and 2,000, we might be able to get that from the audit report. So I'll go dig it up and find it.
For some of it, yeah, that audits are all on the borough website.
Yep.
They're working on the 2021 right now.
Well, if you had a chance to take a look at the criteria,
Yeah.
there would be some time to set this up, but we would use barcode scanning to track our assets. And there is information on the asset's life cycle. So for instance, when did we buy something? Typically, we start asking different people. Oh, I think it was this year. I'm not sure. We have to start thinking for the future because we have people that have institutional knowledge. And as we saw in the office, when people leave, then we have a shortfall. This system could help us with that. And also with item location. We could do scheduling so there isn't disruptions for service. Typically what we are doing now, we're very great when we have an emergency, but it would be nice to be proactive instead of reactive. It's just a lot easier, I think, on the workforce. People don't get as excited and upset. And it can integrate with a work order management system, which could be helpful.
Barb, do you want to have a committee support for this, I would support this to be on our.
I would totally agree, Patty. Yes,
I'd be happy to
I would
support. this.
totally agree.
Did anyone have any comments or questions other than committee?
Well,
Yes, sir.
the reason why I think that what Patty's talking about is extremely good. My company designed a package that goes into the construction environment to help them track all their tools, their equipment, their buildings, everything that pertains to a project. And this package helps them tell how their vehicle usage is going. They can tell how much it costs to run a vehicle every day. And they can see any type of useful life left. If it isn't, they can trade within a certain time period before they have downtime. So our knowledge of how the construction industry manages their activities is very strong. So I don't know how we may bend that into a borough environment, but it seems like there's a lot of similarities there. And the construction people track screws.
You had your hand up, Mr. Morris?
Yeah, I'd like to know more information about all this stuff and specific procedures and all this. I have no problem with this because for years I have been advocating we need to do inventory. I've been handing that out with the budget. Okay. And so I have no problem with doing it. I've suggested several times we get an intern to assist us with doing something like that. I know Mr. Lawrence, in fact, was looking into that, and that may be something that still may happen. But regardless, I'd like to know more specifically what's going to happen, who's going to do what. You know, it's easy to say, let's get a particular package, but if nobody can do it, or if you're going to add it on to somebody else who already is doing way more than they can, I don't know that it's an advantage right off the bat until you understand how it works. And also, as far as money is concerned, we're not poor, but we keep nickel and diming all this stuff. This year, I keep seeing things added to the budget, and it just worries me because of a number of different reasons. Okay, $4,000 here, not a big deal, but $4,000 here, $5,000 there, $3,000 somewhere else. Before you know it, we're over budget on a bunch of stuff. So I'd like to have some more details before everybody goes gung ho, let's do this, because I've been waiting for 10 years for people to go to this. So I could wait a little bit longer. I'd like to see some information about how this is going to work and what's going to happen with it.
Okay, so what I can say on that is I knew we'd be concerned about the budget, so I thank you for your input. What would happen is there would be an initial meeting of anybody that's on this IT group, or perhaps that would be the group that Marcus, Angelo, and Mr. Lawrence is on. Angelo and I initially met and looked at 3 vendors. We both have the same IT background. He's in hardware, I'm in software. A lot of this is set up as a database where you can go in and add fields. I would offer my own expertise with that. And because I was a database manager at the University of Pittsburgh. So we would have to have rules, of course, and set it up. What we wanted to have, as I had mentioned, Justin as an example, we would start with our buildings. We could also put in a dummy code that could be used later for requests. Because just because you name a field, I don't know, work request, it doesn't mean it has to apply to a certain building. Now, it wouldn't be something that we would just say, here you go, it's now on your phone. We're not giving you any training. Of course not. There would be training. We would make sure that the parties interested that have to work with it could clearly understand how this works and relates. I would be happy to set up a Zoom meeting between anyone else that would like to see the product. It's a short Zoom meeting. They run through it maybe a half an hour, if that would be helpful. I don't know what to say on the budget.
Well, Barbara,
Yes, sir.
the conversation that you've been having just now is something I've been doing for 40 years. That's what my business does.
We should have had you.
We're data managers, we're designers, we're programmers, and we interface with accountants. I've been doing that with a staff for almost 41 years now. So I understand what you're saying. Believe me, it is a very involved environment. You have to have people that understand IT structures and understand how important it is to interface it into the environment, the business environment at hand. So that's something that I've lived off of it for a long time. And you're right, it is a very involved environment, and you just have to be very careful how you do things.
Does anyone else have any comments?
Yeah, Barbara?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Hi. It's well, because I'm handling ops and policies, Barbara and Angela have been talking to me a lot about this too, because it's a little bit of overlap in jurisdiction. It just makes more sense to be on Barbara's committee. Certainly there has been much discussion about, we can't just buy this toy and think it's going to get put together on its own. Both Barbara and Angelo have volunteered some of their efforts to this. I did a major recruitment for an intern for this. Unfortunately, for the summer, and as of today, we haven't gotten anyone of value to that. I'm going to probably release a new description out to all the universities in the area again next week to see if we can catch people. It's as you know, it's not just the job market, but the internship market has been hard on us. But that's one of the things we're looking at and trying, because that would be really nice to have an internship for.
Yes,
Are we paying?
I did a lot of that.
Jack, do we have money to pay an intern?
Yes.
How much?
It was $11 an hour.
Okay, because I have 2 students that have been pestering me to do some work with me. I don't know if this is not going to require anything that would be beyond an undergraduate, is it? You're looking
No,
for
it's
me
an
to do data entry.
I posted in as an undergrad. It's mostly more people are in the county and project management areas are going to be the ones most interested in it. It's long enough that depending on the school, now this is their business, not mine or ours, but it's a long enough internship that could probably get course credit for it depending on their institution's approach to internships.
Would you send that to me, Jack? I have 2 places I can send it and maybe it'll help a little.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. Absolutely. So anyhow, just to back up, give a little background there. And again, I'm totally in support of what Barbara and Angela are doing, as you know, and Steve's been well aware needs to be done. So we're trying to get somewhere on it. So thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Oh, go ahead, please, Marcus.
I think typically if your asset management works well, I think you save money as well. So I think it should pay back theoretically. Obviously you don't know, but if you find things, and so I think it pays back.
It does, Marcus. Yes, it does.
So, I mean, you can't put in a budget that it will pay back. Each year will be different, but especially I think it should. If we prevent us buying something which we don't need or so, it will pay itself back. So I'm not too concerned about the budget for that. I think it makes sense. We're big enough. I think we need to have something like that. So it's probably pay back easily.
Jack, could I ask a question of you, please?
Sure.
Now, you had
Yeah.
mentioned about the intern. How would you see their role with this?
Well, they can certainly, depending on what kind of internship we get, they could certainly help give some guidance and proposals for protocols for it. We were frankly looking at this person as a bit of this is a nuts and bolts thing, identifying assets within each area. if we get that far, tagging things. So there's a lot of get down on your hands and knees and do things with this. And we were looking at the interns doing that. Depending on their skills, they could be helpful in protocols depending on their major, and that could certainly help us. But there's nuts and bolts going on here, as you well know. Somebody's got to find all this stuff, and that's what we're looking at.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Burley.
I've used interns from the community college, and also I used some from Pitt. It was a program where I had usage of them for about 6 months. And excuse me, it didn't cost me anything. I had to report on a monthly basis their activities and results of their involvement to the college and university. But that's a good program. It really helps, and they're hungry for the knowledge too. So it's something that it may really benefit us if we put them in the right place. That's where the problem is. They have to be in the right place.
And we can cut this off here, but just a little background if you're wondering. We don't particularly want to get involved in non-paid internships because under the law, the bulk of the time for a non-paid internship has to be educational. We can't use them for labor. We can partially use them for labor, but not. We have to be very, very careful with that. And that would really be a drain on borough resources. So I have not looked at any unpaid internships for that reason. Yeah, some students will do it, but you could get yourself in legal trouble, and we don't want, as a borough, we don't want to be doing that.
Okay.
So that's all I'd say. I'm going to end up my comments here.
Anyone else?
Thank you for your work on this, Barb, you and Angelo. This is very helpful.
Well, what do you think we should decide to do? Should we wait a couple of months, 1 month, 2 months, and then see how the budget is going? Do we have the money?
I'd like to have a chance to look at with Mr. Morris where the budget is and maybe, give a quick report back before the committee, before the finance committee. If I can get it done this week, I'll have a look. I just picked up my budget book today. I haven't had a chance to go through and tag everything, but I will do that and take a little dig and see where we are.
Well, in the meantime, I could also try to arrange a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
For anyone that was interested. Mr. Morris, if you would be interested in that, I would certainly work around your schedule. It may help.
I think the Public Works Chair, our foreman might need to know about this because they deal with our properties and our equipment and everything all the time. I don't know if they would be interested in knowing more about how this might work. I don't know if Jimmy's still on. I'd be interested in knowing, how this would fit into the management scheme for our operational management. I'd like to talk to Mr. Morris about that more.
Okay.
Can I make a quick comment?
Mm-hmm.
I like your idea with a Zoom call, but we have to do it right. Meaning you can present to Jimmy, council members, but we can't have a discussion. So it has to be an informational executive session, it's called. So we have to be careful how we do it. We can't have any discussion on that. You just present and that's it. I think I like that idea, having a Zoom call just dedicated for you to present your thing, and that's it. To members of staff and council members, but there should be no discussion.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll get those things together, Patty,
Yep.
and I'll set up the Zoom meeting and be in contact with everyone. Any other questions on that? Okay, moving on. The Japanese knotweed and invasive plant removal project, which we're calling Save Our Parks. Initially, this was going to be done in 2 of our parks that are being overrun with knotweed and other invasive plants, which essentially is starting to cut into actual property that people have to walk on. Unfortunately, with the culvert work over by Ryan Glen, we won't be able to work there this year, but we are going to start this month down at the main park. Now, there was some removal already by the, I don't know if it was PennDOT or not, but I've met with Troop 90, the Boy Scouts. Also, the Environmental Advisory Council is interested in this, the Late Bloomers Garden Club. So I feel we'll have a lot of volunteers. The Boy Scouts are going to do this as a project, but we will commence at the main park on May 21st, continuing again July 16th, and finishing for this year, August 13th. I'm going to meet with Jimmy to work out where the tarp will be laid and the location of that. But that will start soon on the 21st. The pool sign. This is what I had started to talk with Mr. Burley about earlier. Apparently, last year's council had discussion on a new sign for the pool on Braddock Road. Additionally, Cindy was interested in a second sign up by the pool itself. But so we're looking at two different signs that she was hoping to get in. The sign we have currently needs somebody to hand put the letters up, which is kind of hard. So we're looking at LED lighting. And the first, I guess Mr. Thielacker, Tom, had noted $3,000 for the main sign that's on Braddock Road. But unfortunately, the LED sign that we're looking into getting quotes for, it's a little bit higher than that. Now, Cindy had contacted Wendy, and there was a dollar amount of $14,000 in the pool improvement fund. When I looked through our new budget, I could see the $3,000, but then it seemed to me that there was only another $10,000. So I'm not sure if that figure is correct or not. Mr. Morris, can you confirm how much is available for the pool improvements?
The separate fund, you mean? Or the
Sure,
budget?
where Cindy talked with Wendy and came up with a figure of $14,000. It
There-
included the $3,000, which I could identify.
There's a separate fund that was set up with, I'm sorry, there's a separate fund that was set up with people who had voluntarily donated money to the pool. And that's the fund that I believe Cindy was talking about, or Wendy was talking about. I'm not sure what the exact amount is in there right now. I'm just looking to see if I can bring it up on my screen real quick. Pool improvement fund has $14,388. That was money that was donated, as far as I know, by various people. $14,388 as of the end of March.
So is the $3,000 that's in the budget, is that in addition to this $14,388?
The 3,000 is in the capital improvements plan, and it's there if council approves it for this spending. If you recall, again, we have more money in 2022 budgeted than we have money. So assuming you approve the 3,000, it's there too, as a separate number.
Okay, well, I just want to go through a little bit of a general information on this. If we're going to get an LED lighted sign, the borough's going to need a variance from the zoning board because that area is designated residential. There are people that live on the street, Braddock Road, we have to be careful as well, because there is our ordinance that deals with electronic variable message text signs.
Right.
It indicates they shan't blink, flash, scroll, and that if the sign is flashing, that it's prohibited from 12 midnight to 6 a.m. Additionally, that's at an intersection. And while I know there's a stop sign, when there's a different sign, people are going to be looking at that. I'm talking about the main big sign. So we want to be careful about that too, so it's safe for drivers. Cindy got 3 estimates. The first estimate was from a company in Los Angeles called TV Liquidator. For the large sign, price was $5,570, and that's a 3x6. For the smaller sign, that would be by the pool, it's around 2x4, and the price for that was $1,685, totaling $7,255. Now with that, since it's coming from Los Angeles, there's no installation, as well as there's a 3-year warranty. All these are digital sign manufacturers. The second one is she got an estimate from Smart Signs, which is a local company. And the large sign, which included installation, was a lot more. They wanted $21,874, but that included the installation plus a 5-year warranty. Additionally, the smaller sign would have been $8,169.97. The total for the whole thing was $31,043.97. However, this company also offered a leasing option if anyone was interested in that. The main big sign could be leased for $450 per month. Perhaps if we wanted to purchase the smaller sign, I'm not sure which way you wanted to go on that. The last vendor we have in, I'm sorry, did you have something, Mr. Oberdenger?
But finish first and then I can wait.
The last estimate was from another local vendor, SignStat. This sign has a 10-year warranty. It didn't indicate installation, but I'm sure it does. The large sign for their price was $24,427.20, and the smaller sign was $11,654, totaling $36,081.20. They pretty much, go ahead, Mr. Oberdinger.
Yeah. You were done, huh? Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
So I have a couple of points I want to make. I don't think we should rush it. You know, like that deadline, May 28th, we have to go through planning and zoning, whatever we have to do there. And then I'm concerned, those prices are so different. I really would like to have Dave have a look at those proposals and just to make sure they're really apples and apples. You know, I have the feeling maybe the cheap ones are black and white, which would be, or one color, which would be perfectly fine. And that from LA or the other ones are maybe multicolor and fancy, high resolution. I can't believe that one company is like 4 times more than the other with the same identical specs. You know? So I think we should dig into it more, like get the zoning approved, dig into it more to make sure we really have apples and apples. And lastly, I think we need to, I think the budget, like with that $14,000, it makes sense to take some of it out of there. But again, I think we need to do a little bit more research. And we can't rush something like that in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I guess. I mean, there's no way we should do that in such a hurry. I like the idea, but I don't think we should do it rushed. We should do planning and zoning. We should start that process and look at those proposals and maybe even dial back. I think a black and white sign or like the one color sign would be perfectly fine, you know, green and white or whatever. You know, maybe we can actually save money and have still a functional LED sign. That's my comments.
Well, I think one of the features that that was really needed was the fact that this could all be done digitally from a phone. No one would have to.
Yeah, that's a given. That's a must. That Lynn or whoever can do it via her phone app, Wi-Fi or whatever. Yeah, they all have to be remotely controlled. But Roman Bistro, they have a real fancy sign. Their first one was much basic. We don't need a Roman Bistro sign. I think we can have something more basic. We could really just need to say pool closes today at 5 because there's a swim meet, things like that. And I don't think we need, like, I saw in the proposal like a baby in the pool or something like that. We don't need full color picture quality, I think. But again, we should back off a little bit, take our time, research it. It's a good, I think it's a good idea, but we don't have to do it in 3 weeks. And we
I
can
like
pay.
the idea of a new sign too, but I noticed on all 3 of the estimates, they don't give the same type of information. One lists the number of pixels. Another one indicates the number of nits. What are nits to pixels? It was a little bit confusing. While the signs were the same length, there was a lot of difference with that. Dave, are you on for this?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
here.
Well,
Yeah, I heard what Marcus said. I could take a look at whatever you give me and see what, and I'll give you like a spreadsheet, like I did with the bird deck that compares this one to that one. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of variations from what you're indicating.
well then, Marcus, would you like me to ask Cindy to get some just black and white quotes rather than the color? I'm sorry, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. We should look what Dave comes up with, but yes, we have to see what we get and then have to talk about, because we don't need to go for I'm definitely against the $30,000 Rolls Royce version, it sounds like, but I want to figure out what it is. And then same thing, depending on money, that additional sign they trying to add at the pool building, I don't think we need that. But again, it depends on how much it costs. But we also should start the planning and zoning process. I think, Dave, you can help us with that too.
Yes.
So we should.
Yeah, I
start the
can
planning and
tell you
zoning.
what your ordinance requires and what you might be in violation of and need a variance for.
Yes, because we should get a variance first if we have to before we.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we can't bully our neighbors. Say, okay, we have the ball, we can do what we want. All right, I think that's good. So we
Any
get,
other comments or concerns? Okay, thank you. That ends borough property.
Thank you, Barb.
Okay, if nobody has anything else for borough property, I just need a couple of seconds and we'll move to public safety.
Good night, everyone.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Bye, Dave.
Okay, Mr. Baoki's not here, so Mr. Lawrence or Mr. Watkins, the other members of the
Yeah, I'll take
committee,
it.
I'm ready for public safety, and I really have nothing to report for manager's updates. So you can move on to item number 2, Mr. Lawrence.
Okay, the EMS report, I guess we don't have that. Committee business report. Hey, well, why don't we go to the chief's report and then he can give us a little information about the part-time officers and where we're going with that.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Okay, we had a meeting on Monday regarding part-time police and full-time police and the fact that we're having some difficulty when we test for part-time police positions. And we know that we are looking at a potentially difficult time in the future where the academy's not really testing and having classes for a whole lot of people because no one really is interested at this point. That we may have to consider thinking in a different way and looking at things differently for the future when it comes to how we basically staff the police department. So we did talk about that in great detail, and I know that a lot of stuff we really can't maybe talk about here because it's probably personnel matters. But again, I think the overview of the situation is in the future, we may have to consider a little more in the way of full-time rather than part-time when it comes to police service for the department. Therefore, maybe based on this information, we have to, look at things a little differently, since, the part-time situation that we had in the past is really not available, let's say, at this point in time. In the future, we'd like to at least maintain or, gather up a few more people to work here, because we have been short for quite a number of years. We are missing some part-time people. We were short for about 3 years with an injury. And, these things are just bigger problems that we have to contend with in the future, because again, without a good supply of people, we have a demand that is great throughout Allegheny County and throughout the rest of the state as well for police officers.
Yeah, and that's kind of discussions for the future, but just tonight, we wanted to have the committee address and approve the motion of taking one particular part-timer and moving it to full-time. Did you have anything, without naming names or anything particular to explain?
Yes, we have one part-timer left in the department. His name's Dakota Wagner. And again, if we would move him to the full-time ranks, it would probably be a good choice to do that at this point, because again, there's a lot of people out there who want to hire people full-time, and we have someone who would test and be hired maybe by another department, and we'd rather retain that individual rather than have him be lost to somebody else after he's been with us for well over a year and a half.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, if you'll forbear for a minute and just ask the other committee member, one committee member, Angela's here tonight, but the mayor, you, Angela, met, and Marcus met on Monday. And the immediate concern is we want to put on the agenda for the business meeting council's approval to move this one what is perceived to be a quality part-time officer into the full-time position. Angela is in support of that. Cecil, did you have any? Are you okay with that?
No, I've talked with Angelo and with Marcus, and I think, given the nature of where we are with all jobs, that I'm in favor of that.
Okay. Okay.
Can I make a comment, Chuck? Quick comment?
Yes, please.
I just want to highlight, it's two things. We have the short-term need, which we can move directly to the business meeting. And then we still need to talk about long-term strategy, because we have a bunch of officers probably retiring in a few years. We still need to keep working on the long-term strategy as well. So we have two separate issues. One is promoting that part-time officer we have now at the business meeting, but then we still have to keep working on that long-term strategy, because that issue, what Chuck highlighted, is not going away, and it will get worse for us. So we need to think long-term as well, but obviously that's not a rush.
And I guess to let everyone know, the next steps from the meeting we had on Monday is to get some hard financials on the impact of every hire that we would do. And also, we asked the chief to put together a summary of the issues he sees arising both within the borough staffing concerns and in the greater staffing issues in staffing, just not beyond Forest Hills, but in the next 4 or 5 years. So a next step would be to look at those documents and get a stronger handle on what we're facing. And so that's what the next steps of that meeting. I'm sorry, Chief, I wanted to get that settled. What other things do you have to report for us? Thank you.
I just wanted to briefly speak about, I know that Mr. Tomasic had brought something up at the regular meeting about our entry into a house and, policies that go along with that. And I just wanted to explain that we do have policies per se, that how we handle these situations are really based on what the situation is, unfortunately. If you have a person, let's say, who's crying out for help, then we're probably going to break down the door and go in. If we're not really sure of a situation, and we've had to open a lot of doors in the past, we generally try to find a way to do the least amount of damage to get into those doors. And the fire department provides us with additional resources to access residences. And they have specific tools beyond what we have to just basically force our way in. They can do it in a little more gentle way with some of the equipment they have, where there may not be any damage created, and we can resecure the home after the incident has taken place. Secondly, we do have a policy where people can give us their key for their home, for example, or they can give us their garage code, and we can enter that into our computer system so that we can have access to their homes if they're an elderly person or they're just concerned about something that may happen and we may need to have access and they may not be available to, to provide that for us. Another thing we do is we also put additional information there about secondary contacts, where we can have a phone number at least to contact somebody to get some guidance on what to do, or maybe they could just tell us whatever the code may be for a garage or whatever, or maybe the person's on vacation and that's why they're not answering the door at this particular time. So we do have some certain things in place. I don't want to share everything we do and how we do it, but we do have other areas and other ways to manage these types of situations. And we like to see the best outcome in every case, believe me.
Can I make a quick comment on that?
Okay.
I think we should actually advertise what the chief just mentioned, that people can provide their garage door code, keys, emergency phone numbers. I think it would be useful. I don't think many people know about that. Maybe we should do it on Savvy Citizens or somewhere, publicize that people can do that.
Yeah, I was going to jump in to say the exact same thing. I had no idea that option was available because I live alone and thought about that. And I've had gotten middle of the night calls from neighbors who say, "Can you open up the door for the EMTs? I can't get to the door." Yeah, I think, Chief, sometimes you have something in the Tree City Times that might be something to put in for the next time. Because I had no idea, and I thought about that a number of times. That would be a wonderful thing to be in Tree City Times, and then Savvy Citizen is our resource too.
Yes, we have a lot more to work with these days than we had before. So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'll be down tomorrow. Well, I won't be down tomorrow, but I'm out. I'm not going to send it to you by email.
Very good. No, you don't want to do that. That wouldn't be great.
Okay, anything else?
I think that's all I have. That's fine.
Okay, I'll go on. I think we're almost done, but I have to tell, I've lived here since the early 60s, and the police used to offer a service that if you went away on vacation, they drive by the house a couple times every day to make sure everything was all right. They stopped doing that when somebody realized that they were posting the list of vacation people on the public board in the building. So I think we're a little bit better than we used to be 40 years ago.
Yes. Oh, if you don't mind, I'd like to add one more thing. I did have a conversation about I'm sorry. I had a conversation with one of our other former councilmen about maybe putting some kind of delineator strips on Fillmore. I don't know, we probably have to speak with the solicitor, and we'd also have to talk to Mr. Gillen about something like that. At least Fillmore is a road that we own rather than the state road. And I don't know how much of a benefit or whatever we may have there, but I think we need to have conversations with a few other people prior to talking about this here at a meeting and discussing it with council. I think we need a little more information from those experts before we move on with that, and or, even contemplate having a conversation about it at this point.
Absolutely agree with you. Feel free to talk to Mr. Corbel and
Mr. Gillen.
And Mr. Thank you, because there could be some reason we can't do that, and it's dead in the water. So why even bring it to this committee again?
Exactly.
Yeah, one of them would be getting fire trucks out from Ardmore Boulevard up to Fillmore Road. We wouldn't be able to do it with you put anything on that corner. We have a hard enough time now with traffic coming out down the hill and up Dunkin' Donuts that we wouldn't be able to turn off Ardmore Boulevard onto Fillmore Road.
There you go. Thank you. I didn't realize you were online. I apologize.
That's all I have.
Okay. Angelo asked me to bring up one thing. This is not really for discussion tonight. It's more to think about for the future. Let me look at his note. He asked me to bring up the recent incident of a vehicle crashing into a building in Forest Hills, and then it hit the local news cycle on the TV. he thought it might be appropriate for the committee and perhaps maybe just maybe Angela wanted to talk with both the chief and the mayor about what we're doing with, we've got the new Savvy Citizen and how we can get that information out so that if stuff is starting to get out there quickly on a TV news station that's incorrect, we're ahead of that schedule as much as we can be. But that's something to push forward, and it'll be discussion for the future. But I think Angelo, when he's feeling a bit better, maybe stop by and talk to the mayor and the chief on that one. Okay. And does the fire chief have a report?
Yeah, we weren't able to
Well-
get our full report done for the month since it's so early. But in April, adding on to what we had last month, April, we had 36 calls. May, being today's May 3rd, we've already had 7 calls. So for the year, we're at 136 calls, and this is the 123rd day of the year. So we're a little bit more than one call a day. Some days are more than other. We had 3 calls this morning. Before 10 o'clock, before 10:30, we had 3 calls. So some days you get a lot, some days you don't get any, but we're still doing good there. Like I say, we're 136 in for the year. We'll finish our report and get that up to council by probably committee of the whole meeting next week.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anything else you'd like to let us know about?
Just like invite the committee or anyone on council, if you want to come down and see the fire station, see where we're at, see what we're doing. Got a lot of improvements coming on. We did just secure a grant through Senator Costa to replace our heating and air conditioning in our social hall, which we have been without for the whole winter here. Heat exchanger cracked, but I secured a grant through Senator Costa. I'm going to be working with Mr. Gillum on specs so we can get that installed in a short time.
Chief, do you have any
great.
updates on the fire truck? Sorry, Chuck.
No, the fire truck, we're on par. I just got some new pictures. I haven't been able to upload them and I'll send them up to the borough manager. We've had 3 updates on pictures already. I'll get those up to the manager so he can give them to council. We have the cab painted and it's moving right along. We're still on schedule for a June 15th completion date. So we're looking good at that, and we'll probably have it in service by the end of June. I'm thinking the 15th is a Wednesday. By the time they get down here from the manufacturer and we get equipment mounted and everything, we're looking at the end of the month by the time we get trained to get that in service, and then the other one will go out. The other truck, the old truck, has already been sold. As you know, we traded it in and the broker's already sold it, but we have possession of that until the new truck comes in.
Okay to know. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Colella, Chief
Yes, sir.
Colella. Anything else?
That's all I got.
Have I missed it?
You know, the fire department is also part of our energy audit that's going on with Siemens. You might want to check with them about options for the heating upgrade as well, like they're doing for the Westinghouse Lodge.
Okay.
If you wouldn't, I'll make sure Dave factors that in with Jonathan Zeller from Siemens.
All right. And a
Thank you.
thing about your media, the news finding out about stuff, you're never going to beat social media. I work in emergency services. I have for 40 years now. Yeah, and you're not going to beat social media. So I don't think you'll get ahead of it. Just my opinion on that. I've been
No,
doing this
no
for
one got ahead. Okay, is there anything else from anyone that I missed? Reports?
Yeah, Jack,
Anything?
it's Frank. I would like to.
Hi,
I
please.
think so number one, to Rick's point, I think it's a valid one. Maybe we should be using our social media channels, like our own personal ones. I know that some of us kind of have, like, for instance, I have one that's just for borough related stuff under my mayor's page. But we may want to think about using that and to advertise about, our key service and garage code service for the police department. That might be a good way to get the word out. Secondly, I wanted to see if about advertising for a new test for new officers. So that was part of the discussion that we had Monday morning rather, when we met to discuss hiring a full timer. One of the things that one of Chuck's takeaways was to inform himself about, being able to have advertised for a part-time and full-time test. And so the answer to that is yes, we in fact can offer both. So wanted to see how council felt about moving forward with that, just opening up the test. Doesn't necessarily have to be in the next few weeks, but it would be good to have an approval to move forward with that. And then we'll just work in collaboration with you to kind of time it.
I have no problem. That's great news because that simplifies things. I have no problem with that. That's fine. Anyone else? Cecil, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, that's fine. I think that's absolutely fine. Yeah.
No, because there's no harm in it. The test does not obligate us to do anything at all.
No, that is correct.
So
that is correct. But
yeah.
I think it would be good
Yeah,
to start the process and kind of start to vet candidates now because.
Yeah.
All right, so that's good. So we'll go ahead and just, again, before we actually advertise for the test, et cetera, we'll start to, we'll coordinate that with at least public safety and the maybe extended members of council as well. We'll have to advertise it, et cetera. There's a process that needs to be followed in order to do it properly. So just, I just wanted to make sure that we had council's approval to move forward with that is all.
No, that's great.
Sounds like
Just
there's,
for council to understand.
I beg your pardon?
I was just going to say that just to reiterate for everyone else on council, there's a little bit of question about, how proactive can we be about basically getting tests administered to potential applicants, and does that obligate us to anything? And the basic answer is no. You're never obligated to hire anybody until you decide you want to spend the money. So you can do all the tests you want. But the convenient thing is we can do this together. They're not parallel tracks for full-time testing and part-time testing. So that's good news. Anybody else? Anything else, Ryan?
Nope, that's everything I needed to cover. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for bringing that up. That's good. Thanks.
Okay.
Unless I hear anything else, I believe we're done.
Okay, we'll move to ops and policy in a few seconds, please. Okay, Mr. Lawrence, I'm good with ops and policy.
Okay. And my internet connection just crashed, so I don't have the agenda in front of me. Let's see what I can do here. You go ahead, please.
Okay, well, manager's update. First, one item I didn't have on there that I'm adding right now. I think it would be a good idea if either during exec session or some other time, we had a general discussion on the role of the manager. I think that would be really appropriate right now. I know the manager would appreciate that. The first item I have otherwise.
We will have an executive session after the business meeting. I think we pretty much, like I said, if we don't cancel it, we will always have an executive session.
Okay.
There's always something to talk about.
Well,
so
if we don't have a special need for it, that's fine. But if you're going to have one, I think it'd be a good idea to talk about the role of the manager. The first item I have, committee vacancies. The only reminder I have is that the Wilkinsburg Penn Joint Water Authority vacancy of that position, our representative is up at the end of the year. You're going to have to make a decision on that before the end of the year. Item B, borough policies. If you recall, a few months ago, I gave you a partial attachment on all the different policies that have been approved by council since I started as manager back in 2000. Long time ago. I'm not going to go through all of them, but what I have attached for you to look at are all the different policies that are there. I'm just going to take a minute literally to talk about this, and that's it. I'll move on to my next item. I just think you should review them because some may be out of date, some may be in conflict. But in any case, if a particular employee or myself as sort of as manager here, just acts a certain way or deals with something a certain way, it's mainly because of a policy that was established somewhere by council. So, council should probably take a look at all of them. Just a real quick example, committee rules, for example, are one of the policies that have been approved by council, and yet there are things that get ignored. For example, no one's supposed to add anything to the agenda further than 3 days after 3 days before the meeting. That's in your rules right now, but that tends to be ignored. That's certainly fine if you want to, but it may be something you want to change then or rectify. I didn't put on there the manager's job duties and responsibilities. That's in chapter 1 of the Code of Ordinances, but there are things in there, for example, that get ignored that perhaps should be changed as well. And there have been times too when different people have asked me to enforce one rule or another against a member of council. And I think it's a good idea for council to look at these, because you need to realize that it's not up to the person in my position to enforce the rules. It's up to council to enforce those rules. And if you don't, I literally have had people who have come to me and said that I have to stop a certain member of council, not anybody this year, in the past, a certain member of council from doing something. And I just kind of don't know how to answer that, because I'm not an elected official. I can't do that. So council should take a look at all these different policies. That's the reason why I want to provide a summary to you. Anybody have any questions? I didn't think so. So let me go on to the next item. Banner community. I keep repeating this because I don't know how serious you are about maintaining that status. If you want to, you need to look at a couple of the criteria in there, because you're not meeting them. And I mentioned those criteria again this month. I just want to make sure you're aware of that, so that if in the future you were denied the banner community designation, that you know why. Item D, codification. We haven't updated the overall codification in several years. I want to check with the solicitor about any upcoming ordinances first, but I would like to get that updated, because there's things that are starting to happen that were changed in recent ordinances that aren't formally in the Code of Ordinances. And yet I'll have an employee ask me about whether or not something should be done, let's say, for example, with zoning. And because it's not been updated yet, they have to search for it. And if they don't know that it happened, they're not aware of it, they're going to ignore it, and we're going to end up with a problem. So I would like to update that. We do have some money budgeted in the capital improvements plan for that. Probably not enough to update the codification right now, but I think it's something that needs to be done. I'll let you know what the cost is before I do it, but I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. And finally, Savvy Citizen currently shows 1,118 subscribers. I am told that 50% of them, I put 60 down, but I was told later after I did that, 50% of them are Forest Hills residents. That's all I have. I have nothing else to report.
Okay, let me go back a couple things. On the borough policies, I just got that today. I'd like to look at it, but what I propose is committee look at it in the next month, and we put this back on the agenda. And then I don't know what anyone else, again, Angelo's not here. Mr. Burley, if you have any thoughts or anyone else, I would say we put this, the committee members read over that document to kind of digest it. Then we put it on this committee next month, and then possibly propose that each member of council sit down with a pencil and pen and bring up their questions and proposals, and then submit them to perhaps this committee as to collate all the questions or issues, or perhaps edits, rather than bombarding Mr. Morris with that. Would that seem like an acceptable way to move forward?
Yeah, did we all get that attachment? I didn't see it. I'm not on the committee though.
Attached to the committee agenda for ops and policy.
Oh. Okay.
Anyhow, is that okay?
It's actually empty, so
Objections?
Yeah, that's what I mean. The pages are empty.
you have to resend it.
Oh.
There are 4
Every
empty pages.
Okay, I know, the one I sent you, I'm showing the pages on here.
Yeah, the
So you
pages
don't-
are on, but they're empty.
There are pages here with nothing
Oh,
written on them.
Okay,
That's okay. It can just be resent.
Yeah.
Okay, let's proceed. We'll put this on the agenda for next month, and the committee members will take upon themselves to look it over and be a little more informed about the contents before we make any decisions next month. On the banner community, I'm not that familiar with it. What are the advantages, or does it matter? Morris?
if you're asking me, I could answer, or I don't know if somebody else wants.
Yeah,
to.
no, please.
Well, initially, I did not push it because to me, one of the criteria, and maybe I shouldn't say this, that's going to be on YouTube. I don't mean to criticize ALOM, but one of the criteria is that you attend the ALOM conference every year. Well, to me,
Yeah.
getting a designation that you are a banner community because you attend something that they do, and that's one of the criteria, doesn't seem real meaningful. But they have added an awful lot of other things that make it seem like it's something worth providing to our residents or whoever to say that, yes, we do things the right way. And so from that point of view, except for that one issue that I think of, it's probably worth it for council to be able to show your residents that you do those things.
Can I speak to this? I've been attending the ALOM committee meetings, the ALOM meetings since I came on council. And there are 2 things that I find important about this. One is we've had a chance to present things that we're doing on our borough to other members of ALOM at those conferences. And I think that's important to share the work that we're doing here. I presented on trees, we presented on our building, we've presented a number of times. Secondly, when they're giving out grants from the state, they check things like this. And if you're asking the county executive or the, anybody at that level for a recommendation or support for something you're applying for, they check to see if you're a banner community, and it matters. And I know because I've talked to Darla about this, and I think it may be a trivial thing. It may be, the way the old boys network works, but sometimes it does matter. So we're in compliance except for these couple of things, and I think we could easily figure out a way to deal with this. I don't know if the DARE program was at a high school that's no longer in existence, so we'd have to come up with some other alternative. I did make an attempt to get a junior council member from the high school. I asked every year for 3 years and never got anybody interested, and so I gave up. But they are having the school involved in our eco district. The planning with the eco district is involving the Woodland Hills High School, and I have served on their climate action team. They just gave their conference on Saturday. So we have been engaged with the high school in other ways, but not necessarily with the DARE program. And I
Anything
also
else on
welcome
that?
anybody else attending, to any of these. I send you around the information when I get it. And, so far we haven't had any else participating.
Just very quickly, I think last year, if I'm not mistaken, 80-some communities qualified and were designated as banner communities by Allegheny County. I don't think we want to lose that designation. It's not a big lift on our part to ensure that we maintain that designation. And I'm actually kind of surprised. I mean, I think that the qualifications, I thought we met almost all of them with.
Oh, but these 2.
Yeah, except for those 2. So and again, it's not a major lift to check those boxes. So in my mind, let's just get a plan of action in place to do that. We should maintain it. I believe it's awarded every January, Steve?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So we have plenty of time to correct those 2 issues. And
Usually you have to fill out a document before the end of the year.
right. Like I said, we do everything on there except for 2 criteria, which are not big lifts. We can do that.
I just brought the certificate back with me from the last meeting, so we have it in the office.
Yep.
And
Okay, let's go
not
ahead.
to change subject, I also just emailed you another copy of the option policy with that attachment. I don't know why. Mine shows it, the one I have in front of me right here. I don't know what happened. So I just sent you another one.
Okay.
I double checked it. They're attached.
All right. Those are the only questions I had on D and C. Anyone else have anything before we wrap this up?
Nope.
I'm good.
Okay, I hear cricket. I think we're done then. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Good night.